Welcome back to the Season 1 finale of the Remember Us podcast. It's been a pleasure this season to work with everyone and dive deep into so many stories. For our last episode of the season, we decided to take our host and creator and make him the hosted. Wait, is that the right term? Anyway, on this episode, our very special guest is the one, the only Rob Basedow, who is the mastermind behind the whole project. And we have an assortment of hosts who are ready to ask the questions we all want answered. So for the first time, take it away, Juliana.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome back. This is episode 5 of the Remember Us podcast, the finale, with Rob Basedow. We have Keith.
What's going on, everybody?
How are you guys?
We have Anthony V.
What's up?
We have Sam.
Hi, friends.
And last but certainly not least, Drew.
What's up, everyone?
Today on this episode, it'll be very special, very unique. You're going to want to tune in for the whole thing. We are interviewing our very own, the founder, Rob Basedow.
Drum roll, please! You know, it feels weird sitting on the opposite side of this table. You know, so yeah, I mean, how you doing?
Not great, but we're okay.
All right.
Honestly, my life sucks. That's just, you know.
That's where it's going. So.
Well, we need to start having real conversations about how people are doing. You can't just say good. We have to break the script, okay?
True.
Okay, so first question, and this has been a burning question for me personally. What inspired you to make this podcast?
Well, funny enough, one of the biggest motivations was just kind of realizing how little of time we actually have on this world. My grandma and me are super close. All my grandparents I am, super close with, but me and my grandma that I live with were very close, and I wanted to do something that kind of encapsulated us, being able to hear her voice, hear her words, hear her story and her testimony long after she's gone, and for others to be able to hear. I think it started off just as like a one video thing. I brought the attention to Keith, who writes all of our podcasts, Drew, and Starsky, who edits everything. And we kind of just brought it to life. The quality was garbage at first. I mean,
It was.
I won't lie. It literally looked like, you were filming on a Nokia. But, we made it work, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm thankful for my grandma for really even being the first person on the podcast. Her video was really good. It was Drew's that sucked.
And mine did, yes.
But it was, I know it's not easy for anybody to just jump on, have a video of themselves, even me, still to this day. And this is the 5th and, final episode of this podcast. But, I really wanted her to just, have a platform forever. And so that one day we could all just, keep watching the video.
It's really beautiful. I really like
Well,
that.
I don't think it's the final episode of the podcast, period.
Just the season.
Just the season.
We'll be back.
But so I have a question jumping off of this. It's like,
Shoot, yeah.
I think it's really interesting on you wanting to touch on other people and hear their stories. Like, were you like interested in getting down to the nitty gritty and letting people, give their side of their story about their life? Did you want to just give awareness to the people that you care about? Like, how did it, like, what was the defining feature that you wanted to?
That's a really good question. Honestly, I started off, like I said, the way that I did, and then I went to, you, actually, because, of your disease, you want to encapsulate everything you can with the people that you care about. But then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, like, I see podcasts and videos and streams, and I'm not knocking anybody's creativity. Like, people do gaming streams, people do, all different kind of podcasts, political, anything. And I kind of thought, why don't we try something outside the box? Why don't we try something for people around here, or the people not even around here, just the people that are just average, common, normal people that don't really get a platform to speak on, kind of tell a story that could kind of like change the way others view it, because there are so many people that won't get behind this mic, right? Like there's so many people, even me, still to this day, I have stage fright, and this is the final episode of this season. So I think going forward, it's, having just so many powerful stories to share in front of everybody. I mean, it's something that I just want to continue to do.
I think it's what's amazing about what you did that not a lot of people do nowadays is you almost uncensored people who would normally be censored, right?
Yeah.
So you gave them a platform to speak on things that we know about but don't necessarily want to talk about. We've had some pretty crazy stories on this podcast, and being a part of it, and what you created is you gave a voice to people who would most of the time be voiceless.
Yeah.
And that's pretty revolutionary. I don't think you guys really, if you know of a podcast, let me know that does that. But I don't know. I think when we first came up with this idea, when you told me about it, I'm Sam, by the way, hello. You were like, yeah, I don't know. Something about it just felt right, I think. What do you think?
I mean, I agree. I mean, I appreciate that. It means a lot. Revolutionary, sure, but I don't look at myself as something like that. I kind of just look at myself as like, there's just so many people that just go through so much and just kind of sit quiet for long periods of time, never, getting help for the things that they have went through, whether it be abuse, addiction, many other different things, whether it has to do with religious beliefs or, stuff like that. And they never really get to share how they're truly feeling. So, like after, like I said, conversating with the team, having conversations with my parents and just trying to figure out like what I personally wanted to do, I said to myself, let's change the game. Let's change the game. I said to Keith, let's do this thing. You know what I mean? Let's do something that one day we don't need the praise, we just need the people. You know what I mean? We need the people behind it. We need the people actually viewing it. I could really give a shit if the video maybe, isn't 100%, what you want to hear. Sometimes it's what you need to hear, and that's extremely important. And I don't shy away from saying stuff like that because there's a lot of stuff in my life that truth overcomes what you truly want to hear. And I feel like that's something that I needed to hear when I was younger, and I'm starting to tell myself that now. The truth is the most important thing. So it could be uncomfortable, but being behind this mic is one of the most powerful things. Your voice is the most powerful thing. So. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, this is Anthony.
What's up, man?
How you doing, Rob?
Good, man.
I'm the psychological consultant. I came on. Was really appreciative to be part of this team.
Absolutely.
And from what I remember, this was originally had a different name. It was called the Remembrance Project.
Yes.
It was on YouTube.
Yes, yes.
And so how did that change from the Remembrance Project to the Remember Us podcast?
So basically, we took a hiatus for a while because we really didn't know the direction we wanted to go in. And when we came back, somebody trademarked the name, so we didn't really have a chance to. Yeah.
Sons of bitches.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So
How dare they,
But actually, this is an announcement to the team right now. I haven't told anybody yet, but yesterday I went and I trademarked the name for us all. So,
Look at that.
Awesome.
We're official.
This is our
Official
this
podcast.
is our team now.
Oh,
So
that sounds good.
so it's cool, and it's something to be really proud of because we've all worked extremely hard here. And I think the name I felt was right at the time, but it just wasn't clicking. And I think going back, I even mentioned to Drew a while back, I'm like, when we do go back to this, I think I want to change the name. And in a way, I'm kind of happy it did change because it's exactly where I want it to be.
I think it turned out for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I came up with the name. I just want to
She
say.
did.
Wow.
Juliana did. That's
Gotta
No,
give me
as
credit.
a-
She did. She
Yeah,
did.
I definitely agree with the title change because as a writer, you have to come up with different titles. So I think Remember Us is more sort of in your face.
Yeah.
It grabs the
Absolutely.
people more.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was good.
I think like with that, Remember Us, it gives like a personality and just even a persona to the person that's behind the mic. I'm remembering you, but why am I remembering you? What is, your story doesn't have to be this crazy thing. It could just be about your life. Your life is so important, and that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, I don't care if you have the personality of this soda can. You know what I mean? Like, you're still a person, and I still love you, and I still want to hear your story. So.
Hello.
Hey.
So, go ahead, Drew.
Oh, okay.
Finish that sentence.
No, so like, what's interesting is that this podcast is, you talk like everybody talks about their struggles, their triumphs so far. A lot of it so far has been though, mostly about the negatives, and how is that affected from we talk about really deep things, and it can get kind of crazy. Like, has this affected you at all? Like, not on top of that, like like, how do you feel hearing everyone's story?
Well, to start that first question, because that was a loaded one, which I do appreciate. It does take a toll on me. It takes a toll on me because there's nights I don't go to sleep thinking the night before the podcast. There's nights when I first get a person signed on to want to be on the podcast that I take them out to lunch. I do, I spend a lot of time with them, get to know them. And, it's you have to be in multiple places at once. You have to do a lot of things on top of, working and all the other stuff we do. And, but it means so much to me, and it means so much to the people that, I don't mind it. I love what I do. I think when it comes to that part, I don't know. It just kind of came to me. Like I said, I have sleepless nights, and I just don't sometimes. I don't know. I get stage fright. Like I could get stage fright right now, like mid sentence. That's because I'm an anxious person. But I think I kind of figured out a way to circumvent it and to see exactly where I wanted to bring it. What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
Like, how does it, like, has it affected you at all?
Like hearing their stories?
Yeah, like after the fact.
That's a good part too. Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, the thing is, I wouldn't say it's affected me in a negative way. It's definitely a neutral way, because just, you really think that you have it rough. We all do, because there's no lie. We all have it rough to many degrees, but then there's degrees that are even worse than our own. That's why it's so important to always think, yeah, I have it rough, but somebody has it worse. And I truly always live by that. And sometimes just hearing these stories, whether it was like we talked about, religious beliefs or, physical, domestic abuse, mental abuse, any of that. I mean, you just really don't know what you have and what's going on in your life. So, yeah, I mean, like, there were times, in like a couple of the episodes where I was, filling up. I was definitely filling up. And when we used to do, like, the outlines and stuff online, like, in a Discord call and stuff, I would, just hearing some of the stories and what people went through, and like almost losing loved ones and stuff. I mean, it sucks, and it wears on not just the person, but it wears on you, because you truly care about this. So.
I was going to say too, what Drew was asking, it sounds like secondary trauma. As a therapist myself, I want you want to be aware of that and make sure that you're not getting so impacted. Want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, self-care.
Right.
And you're pacing yourself.
Yeah.
So I would even say with the podcast too, because even for our first season, we've had a mirage, diverse of different stories and different issues.
And it can be a very heavy
issues,
toll.
Yeah.
even per episode. You have multiple issues that we're talking about.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, I have been learning to pace myself a little bit. I think that the team that I have around me is one of the most supportive you'll ever see, and that's honestly what's helped me. The beautiful thing about having a team is everybody has their own hat, and sometimes it gets a little rough to have all the hats, come together, but we found ways to kind of make things work, and that's the beauty of everybody having a voice, because I don't want everybody to just willingly, I agree, I don't need that, but
Hello there.
yeah, I am from Planet Zenith,
Hi.
I want,
Yellow.
I want, I kind of just wanted to form a team, form bonds, friendships that'll last forever. And we already had that, and now we have them even more.
I think another really interesting part, too, of the podcast, like, me and you, Rob, we've been friends for, like, 10 years almost.
Yeah.
And, like, even coming on for, like, the first episode for this new, like, season that you guys were doing, and, like, sharing my story and, like, telling parts of it that I really haven't told anyone, like even you, and having all you guys hear it, like even though it was traumatic for me to like retell that and relive it, and like it definitely messed me up for a little bit, like I saw it also mess you up. I saw the anger like resurface, and not just with you, with like James and like other people too. Absolutely. Like other people who listen to it, but I find it really interesting how like that secondary trauma kind of, it almost like re-imprints itself on us as a whole team. So I think it's really interesting. Mm-hmm. And like how Anthony was saying, I think it's really important to focus on that self-care and the outlets you have.
Mm-hmm.
But
I remember too, Juliana, you said that re-listening to your first episode was really hard, right?
Yeah,
because it brought up some of that stuff from the past a little bit.
And like
right?
I've told my story before. I've told it to my therapist and the other therapist I had before that one, and like to a few close friends and like a few close family members, like probably like 5 people total really know in depth what's happened to me. And I never like you never really hear your story from your own voice. So being able to go back and listen to that again and like hear this like young woman talk about her story and the stuff she went through, it was like it shed a whole different light on it that I never thought I would experience, because it was almost like I was listening to someone else's story.
Yeah.
And it was really impactful, and it honestly helped me like really close the book on everything, and I'm in a much better place now. But yeah, it was really interesting how that took place, and I hope that it happens
Yeah.
for other people that way too.
That actually made me really smile, because sometimes you're right. You're right. When I saw you upset, because like you said, I mean, not long after having people kind of hear your story, and let's be realistic, we don't actually heal from things always. Sometimes time just moves us farther away from it. I firmly believe that. I'll never believe that we're always healed from the things that we've gone through. I think we just,
Big true.
Right?
Big true.
Yeah,
Straight
what
up.
Juliana said, it's definitely creating positive effects. I mean, if she could go
100%.
back and listen to this, and it's impactful to her, I mean, that's a clear sign that what we're doing is positive. So
But you see, you
Yeah.
said the key word. Well, word we.
Mhm.
Like we started this, me and you. So, having Juliana jump on even after doing her podcast, that took a lot of guts. I mean, it's tough because, like she said, it's like only 5 people really knew her story, and now the world is gonna know. Even the people that have affected her could listen to it. But the beautiful thing about that is her strength comes from within and the people that support her. And her voice can never be challenged. How could you challenge somebody that's went through events? You know what I mean?
exactly.
So, I appreciate you more than you know. And really, your voice was incredible. And
Thank you.
yeah. and
That's our girl.
and everybody that's been on it. We had Ashley, who was just really just a wonderful woman. I love that girl. We had Pastor Johnny Pizzo. I mean, that's my boy from, A-Town, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, John. Because
We-
that was one of my best friends
yeah, absolutely.
growing up.
And we had wonderful Danielle, come all the way out here from Brooklyn to talk about hers.
And what I wanted to say too, even if the podcast doesn't reach like hundreds of thousands of people or even hundreds of people, like we know that it's helping the people who are coming on here and doing this and sharing their story,
Absolutely.
and that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You just really, honestly, you took the words from me, because that's the truth.
Yeah.
It's, at first people heard about this and they were like, the Remember Us podcast? The fuck is that? I don't want to get on that. That sounds lame. I don't want to, But all of a sudden, out of the woodwork, you got, wonderful people that I just, grew up with, or maybe haven't even really had a full conversation with in my life, really wanting to kind of share theirs. And I think that that's so important because, having a cup of coffee, sitting down with a friend and kind of discussing some of, your issues or just things that you want to kind of get off your chest and maybe, spread awareness for it's really not just a beautiful thing, it's a powerful thing,
Yeah, one of the things that like I can't wait for is to go on to this and do mine.
Yeah.
Because especially after, Pizzo's podcast, I want to help and explain and show what I go through and struggle, or people, with my disease go through and struggle. And I'm excited to get that opportunity to not just tell about myself and to uplift other people and to inspire other people,
Right.
but to try to give an awareness of, yeah, this is really tough and this is extremely, it hurts, it's painful,
Doesn't get any easier.
and it gets harder. Honestly, it doesn't ever get easier; it just gets harder. So,
Yeah.
That's
and everybody, I guarantee you, has that same feeling. And I haven't even done it yet, and everyone has done it. I'm pretty sure you, Jewel, have feel exactly that.
And it's like she said. I mean, like she probably, I don't know for a fact, but if she goes back and ever listens to it in her own private time, and just listen and just hears her voice and is like, wow, like I've come this far in this span of time. I mean, you're right. Your story is unmatchable to the next person's. What's beautiful is that even if you do have CF, cystic fibrosis, your version of cystic fibrosis and your experience is never going to be the same as somebody else's.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what's beautiful. Everybody's experience in life is different.
Yep.
And that's why this works. That's why this is so impactful, Anthony, what were you saying? I heard you...
Oh no, I was just gonna say that you never know what someone's going through from the outside, till they share their story.
Yeah.
So like I said, never assume
Yeah, of course.
what someone's
Yeah.
go through.
Yep.
That's what makes this so undeniably successful. And it's not necessarily about the good that it brings sometimes, but sometimes the ugly. Like I mentioned earlier, podcasts like this, you have to really tread lightly with the topics.
Yeah,
like,
oh,
we
yeah.
talked about some really heavy stuff. But at the same time, even today, I may ask you some tough questions later. And just because the stripped down version that we give to our audience, or whoever's listening right now, is what makes this so great.
I agree. It should be held for me as well.
Yeah.
And all of us.
And that's why I think we're all going to ask you some questions later where I'm going to challenge you a little bit and be like, all right, this is XYZ.
Sure.
Because the podcast, while it does have so much power to it, there's things behind the scenes that, we struggled with in the beginning. And I'm definitely more curious about that as
Sure.
well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so be
I'm fine
prepared.
with that. I'm totally fine with that. I mean, like I mentioned before, to touch a little bit on, like when I first started this, I have such bad, social anxiety and any anxiety. You look in the dictionary, you'll just see a picture of me with two thumbs up, bent thumbs, like hitchhiker thumbs.
That could not be more accurate.
Yep, that is true.
Yeah. So, I mean, should I go into detail about the anxiety?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right
please.
Yeah.
I want to hear
Go
you,
right ahead.
man.
I think the
This is our
epitome of the
episode.
podcast is talking about what's uncomfortable, what people don't
Yeah.
normally want to talk about. Even right in the beginning when I said that, let's get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
It-
take it away.
You're not wrong. I mean, yeah, so, I mean, growing up, my childhood was awesome. I mean, my parents, I was raised by two wonderful people that I really owe a lot of this to have my own voice and freedom. I can't really ever say anything bad about them. I mean, my dad's always worked about 74 jobs at once, and my mom, too. I mean, they're just, they're very caring and loving people. So anxiety doesn't come from, always the situation. Sometimes it comes from who you are. It's uprooted in just your DNA. Growing up, at first I was, an only child until I was 5. Then we had my boy Keith, and then later on my other brother, Scotty. And, we went from, I went from kind of being an only child for a little bit to realizing like, wow, I'm going to be an older brother now. This is tough, but not even just an older brother times 2, and people kind of don't realize what kind of toll that even takes on you, because you have to set a tone or a standard for, those, following.
I deal with that on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly. You have sisters too. Like,
Yeah,
that's
3
even-
sisters that they need to look up to me. I have to set the example,
Yeah.
and it's tough.
They're doomed. No, I'm kidding.
Nope, they already are. I can confirm this.
See, that's really interesting because I was the baby
Mhm.
sibling, so it's interesting to hear
The older.
yeah,
Yeah.
sort of like the older one. I've also heard of like middle child syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
my
that too.
brother Keith, he usually mentions that every once in a while, but I think that was one of the hardest things, getting older and having to always remember that not only do you have to set a tone for those watching you, but also your brothers, because, they do look up to you in a way, and I want my brothers to have their own voice. I always did, and they do, and they're really unbelievable people now, and, but
I was giggling.
why?
Well, because I was thinking, if for those of you who don't know the Robert Basedow that's sitting in front of me, Robert is a natural-born leader.
Why are you saying Robert?
So
Yeah,
hearing
his
you,
name's Rob.
hearing you talk about, being the older sibling, Rob just exudes what an Aries man is. So just listening to you talk about it and the leadership skills and the qualities that you have, even throughout your life, like if you weren't even all together all the time, you were always a leader and continue to be a leader. So the fact that, you set an amazing example with that, but there also is a lot of hardship with that, because you immediately think, I have to be the base god of the world,
It's true.
so to speak.
That actually means a lot, Sam. Thank you. I never really tried to actually just kind of lead. I kind of just tried to always be myself, and, if others followed what I did, then that meant I was doing something right. And, I appreciate that. I appreciate that high praise, because coming from any of my friends or people that I care about, that's extremely high praise. I guess really, like you said, I mean, I am an Aries man, and the personality fits the description.
I had to
When
throw
I'm
that
mad, I'm mad.
I mean, it stated that a leader doesn't want to lead. It is thrust upon them. They take out the mantle.
He's right. I mean, that's 100% spot on. I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't like
I'm the same.
I don't like being the one in the room that kind of has to either give the motivational talk or whatever. Funny enough, even though a lot of people say that mine are pretty decent, I get that, anxious tendency to where I don't want to do this. Sometimes I wish like I didn't have to. Sometimes I wish like I was more quiet and I did things a little bit more, on the relaxed side, and I wasn't so as aggressive as I am, because that's one thing that always tears me apart. I know who I am as a person, and I'm a very aggressive person, right? And sometimes I wish that I would take a page out of my brother's book or your book or even some of the people at this table's book and change who I am. But I think one of the most important things is realizing who you are, and I'm proud of who I am, and I don't think I'll ever change. And I used to fight with that. I remember how I had conversations with you nightly, like, I'm so sick of this shit.
Yep.
I'm tired of always, oh, are you kidding? Like getting into a fight at the drop of a hat. I mean, that's definitely changed a decent amount. It'll never fully change because that's just me, but it's always for a good reason. I don't do things just to be an ass. I do things because I truly care, and my emotion sometimes is literally as bright as this USA logo.
Yeah. I mean, has the platform that you created changed that about you? Do you find yourself looking at you in a more less aggressive way?
I think it's humbled me in a way because, like, like I said, I mean, I've had a certain opinion and a certain, like, power behind my voice for a while, but when I hear some of these people talk and the power behind the courage that they have to be on a mic, I'm like, holy shit, I'm bowing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's incredible. And like I was saying, before you asked this, being a leader, it started with, being an older brother. I was, like I said, I was petrified, because I got to set the tone for these two now. And if I mess up in any way, they're going to see this. And I don't ever want to mess up. Now, I know brothers always have your back, right? Like we love each other and stuff. And they know you're going to mess up. They know you're going to fall. Even Drew's a brother to me. And it's like, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to fall. And I never did. I have such a hard time with when I mess up. How am I going to fix this? How do I fix it? I got to get it fixed at this moment. I can't take a yes or a no. And it becomes a problem in a way sometimes. But now, since we really started this probably like in the beginning stages, maybe like 2 years ago, I really have learned that like you could, just like Drew said, leaders don't always want to lead.
You did a great job, bro. You really did.
Listen, the way Scott builds in Fortnite, that right
that's a
there is
clear
enough.
indicator.
That's enough.
And I look up, wow, the moon.
So I wanna bridge this into, honestly, because
You're not gonna use the word segue like Starsky?
Shoot the
we're
shit.
gonna shoot the shit.
it must-
there it
It
is. Right?
literally says segue like
Yeah.
6 times on the script.
I can't wait.
Starsky influence.
So, I want to talk about you and your past, because
Okay.
before we met and we were friends, I know a lot of what happened and where. Fun fact, guys. Rob used to be very, very angry, and he would beat the crap out of anybody who probably even looked at him funny.
He's not wrong.
Right?
I used to get in a lot of fights. He's
Yeah.
not wrong about that.
And so, I want to learn how. I know the evolution, but I want people to know the evolution. I
Yeah.
want to know how did that happen? Where
Yeah.
did the aggression come from?
Well,
What
funny
happened?
enough, I actually got tested to see if I had anger management issues, but I don't. It's called rage fits. And like what happens is sometimes you get so overconsumed with a situation that the emotion behind you just kind of takes hold, and it could go from like one way to another way. I could be like really depressed, or I could be ready to chop your head off, you know what I mean? And it's not it's definitely not a good way to live, but it's something that me and my therapist are definitely working on, and I'll never not say here that I don't have a therapist. I'm proud to have one, and I'm proud to be who I am, medicine included.
It's always good to get
It's a
help.
beautiful
I
thing.
can pass that off to Anthony, actually. So what Rob just mentioned
Hello.
is something called, which I believe is called emotional dysregulation, where it's basically where you have a lot of big feelings and you don't know how to handle those big
Yep.
feelings because they segue into about 4 different categories
Yeah,
from
branch
one
out.
emotion. Yeah.
Mhm.
And as someone who has that herself, wow, we're twins. It's definitely something really hard to deal with because you get angry almost from the emotions that caused it. And anger is an emotion in itself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did you have it as a kid too?
Oh yeah, I mean it was 1,000 times worse, like Drew said. I mean I was more so angry than I was anything, and it was nothing. It was not my brothers, it was not my parents, it was nobody family related. I think like when I was younger, in school, I had a lot of kids, we all do, that were just kind of like, bullyish. And even if they weren't considered bullies, they were bullyish. And, everybody's always got to assert dominance in a room. And that happens a lot. And quite frankly, it used to happen even in a preschool setting. And
This man do it as a kid.
and the problem I have is, and I guess people hear the truth from, really how I am now, is you just get sick and tired of shit. Like you get tired of hearing, who's got the best thing, who's got this, who's got that. We all are living our own lives and who we are. And I'm tired of, I remember when I was a kid, the kids in my class, right, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, they'd brag about like the stuff they had, whether it was a new console, a new game, or this or that. Oh, you're a loser, you're a bitch, you're this or that. They'd say some pretty harsh shit as you get older and older. And I think one day the aggression just kind of came out of nowhere. One day I just felt it build up from within, and it was behind my eyes, and it just felt like there was a rage behind me, like I had never felt before. Everything went red, and I was consumed by it, honestly.
Yeah, and that's true what you say, how people say they see red, or there's some people that suffer from rage blackouts.
I've
they
had
don't
that
remember,
before myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times with anger, it's like an iceberg, so there's things about anger that's on the surface, but then there's a lot of beneath the surface. There's some unaddressed things about anger. So for you, what is sort of the underlying issues with your anger, or growing up, or even today? What would you say?
I'm not trying to act like some poster boy hero, because I'm definitely not. I have my own flaws, but
Everyone has their own demons.
yeah, I think like I was bullied for quite some time, like just by random people. I was actually in high school. I was bullied by a kid who kept calling me a sellout for my basketball team because I was really hot garbage at basketball for a while. And I made the team, so obviously the coach saw something, but I sure as hell
Still
didn't.
dunked over my head, so it didn't even matter.
I think it honestly originated after I really got called a sellout. That sellout still stays in my head. It's something that I still say to myself sometimes, you're a sellout. And I never let it go, and I'll never give names because, I'm sure that person, is a better person than who they are today, but it always stuck with me. You're a sellout. And it's like, I'm not, and it took me a long time to truly understand that in my heart, but I never wanted somebody to feel that way. Again, I never wanted somebody to be bullied, or made fun of in front of a class, or being the kid that always wears a sweatshirt because you're too skinny, or, you feel like you're too heavy to like wear something, or you're not the popular kid in school, so, fuck you.
I literally feel attacked right now.
Do you? Trust me, I was the one with a sweatshirt too. I had it on because in high school I weighed it like as much as like a wet napkin. You know what I mean? A little, weight to it. But I think a lot of it is just I wanted to really make sure that the people that I loved never felt the same thing again, and I kind of hid behind it. I hid behind my anger, and I wouldn't say I hide behind it now. I'd say I kind of channel it, and I kind of use it sometimes to where it doesn't always come at the right moments. I mean, I don't think anger really always is supposed to, but I think back then I just said to myself, screw this. Like I'm gonna rip somebody's head off. I'm gonna punch a tree until my knuckles are bleeding. I'm gonna, if somebody's bullying my friend because he has a disease, their head's coming with it. And I've gotten.
Oh, I've seen those.
How many fights? Fist fights. I've had to have gotten in about 15 that you've seen.
Oh, more.
Probably
Easily.
more.
Easily more.
Yeah, and it's been a
Wow.
lot of fights. Keith, you've seen.
Yes,
Yeah.
I definitely have.
And it's
All the stories I could tell. I
it's
might
just-
tell it when I do my story. Oh my.
You're like 30-0 in the streets right now.
Yeah. I definitely have not won every single fight, and I think that makes you an honest man or woman.
How many
you know?
TKOs you get?
Somebody put me in a Gamora.
Here's the thing, though, is like with a platform like this, you can't hide behind a platform like this because you essentially put yourself on the chopping block. Even today, you did it for us. You're like, this is who I am, this is what my past was, this is what my future is, and that's what every guest did on the show prior to you. Drew, Juliana, Ashley, Danielle, there is no escaping from this, and that's why I think we're asking some really tough questions right now.
That's why I wanted to touch a little bit more on the anxiety. I've had anxiety since I was a little boy, and it came in all different forms. It was a social, it was physical anxiety. Like where my stomach was bothering me or my head felt really fuzzy, tunnel
Same.
vision. Yeah, and around the age of 22, it was a really rough time, honestly. I wasn't happy with where I was at. And I'll just flat out say it. I don't care if anybody's listening or not. The relationship that I was in just wasn't really, it was going downhill, and all parties know that. And it just wasn't where we were all meant to be at the time. And I was, drinking a decent amount, and I'm not much of a drinker. And I drank more than I had ever really had in my life, and that's really probably like 3 drinks because I don't drink a lot. But they were high percentage, alcohol volumes. And one night I just remember waking up in like a sweating panic, and my heart felt like there was a 45-pound plate on my chest, and I was like, what the hell's going on here? Help. And I ran out into the living room because my dad had fallen asleep on the couch, and I was like, Dad, something's wrong, man. Like, I'm nervous right now. Like, what the heck? And he's like, are you all right? Like, what's going on? And I said, I don't know. It feels like something's like pressing on my chest. Like, I'm scared here. Like, what's going on? And he said to me, he's like, it might be a panic attack. Why don't you take a seat? And my dad has always been extremely supportive of me and my brothers. And honestly, my dad suffers from anxiety. And honestly, there's not a greater man in this world than my dad. And I know everybody could say that about somebody in their life, but he really he understands where we're coming from, to where a lot of people don't understand what it's like to have anxiety unless you truly have it in some form. My mom came out. I was holding my mom. I was crying. It gets me a little emotional now talking about it, because that was the start of even where I am right now. I still take medication, and I have no shame in it. And I think that anybody who does take medication out there should be proud of who the hell you are. Therapy is important in this world right now. So, keep going at it. But my parents, they stayed with me, and what had happened is I had started suffering from severe panic disorder, to where it wasn't like a panic disorder that was always going to be there, but in the moment I was having nothing but multiple panic attacks over and over again. I was actually brought to the hospital, Stony Brook Hospital, and I was given an injection of, I think it was Ativan, to calm me down. Did jack shit, because the next day I woke up, my heart was pumping out the wazoo. But we had to find something that was really going to help me. And there's a list of medications that you could really list off. I think that I've been the test dummy for all of them.
I know that feeling with my own disease.
Exactly. I think I've had a lot of adverse reactions, if you remember, Keith.
I do.
I remember I went to the hospital solely for an adverse reaction to a medication for anxiety, which caused more anxiety.
It's scary because you're already anxious and you're scared.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have this medication in you that's causing you to be anxious, and that's a whole new list of stuff to worry about.
That's a war in its own, because you start to, without even realizing, the psyche in the behind your mind is like, well, you just took a medication and it fucked you, so now you're screwed, pal. And I think that scared the hell out of me, because for a while in 2018 I didn't take any medication, because that happened around there, and I was very hesitant to continue taking medication. I wanted to stray away from it. I became depressed, and I will never lie to anybody that depression and anxiety come hand in hand, and not one is worse than the other. I'd never say in my life, I never would harm myself, never thought anything suicidal. There were times, though, when you are depressed, that if you see a school bus coming your way, I'm going on top of Old Smoky, eating it. But no, but there are times when you're in a really dark place and you kind of just don't know if there's going to be a way to get out of it. And I remember just all of the emotions of, not taking medicine cold turkey and just feeling like shit. And that's the start of the uphill battle. The years started to progress. I finally just made amends with myself, looked myself in the mirror like the meme, and was like, and I just said to myself, I have to get back on medication.
What other things have you done besides like medication and therapy to help you in your journey, not only with your mental health, but I guess like your physical journey? Just like, how have you been able to get to this place now?
Okay, that's a good question. I mean, one thing that I'm very passionate about is fitness. Fitness is something that kind of corresponded with therapy and medication, to where it was the one part that was missing from my life. Like, there was a void, and I needed something to help me shield. It's kind of like the chainmail that I wear to protect myself from anxiety at times. Right now, I'm a master personal trainer. I'm not branched out of any location. I'm an independent personal trainer. But it was a long road. I remember starting off. I went to the gym. I signed up for LA Fitness with a buddy, Brandon of mine. Didn't really know too much shit. My dad taught me a lot. But how much you gonna remember when you're a certain age? I remember going with. Funny enough, actually, somebody who taught me a lot about the gym is actually sitting in the room right now, James over there. He actually taught me a lot, and I'll actually never forget that, because honestly, that's what actually got me passionate. Because I remember him just looking at me one day and just kind of, I said, I want to get out of here. Let's finish up. And he's like, do you want to actually, look the way you want or not? And it was the truth. It's like, if you want to cut corners, sure, keep doing what you're doing, but I'm gonna stay here.
That's James. He will always give you the cold, hard truth.
But it's what you need at times. And that's why he's one of my best friends. You need that kind of person in your life, though, because it changed me. It transformed me. And I got to say, fitness and working out and, you putting your headphones on and just, literally cranking out a great set in the gym, whether it's bench or, arms or shoulders. And also teaching people like Drew, or Anthony, and, even showing my brothers some stuff, even though they're pretty educated with it, it's cool. It's a great feeling, and it honestly releases so much, dopamine, honestly, that, when you sweat and, you're knocking all this stuff out of you, you can't be anxious, because I'm just tired at this point, so.
Yeah, I was going to say that for a little bit, I was going through you. I definitely want to get back into that. I've been just kind of got sidetracked with life stuff getting in the way, but I've been trying to keep up with swimming. But I want to get back into that. We've been meeting at the gym.
Yeah,
so.
we'll continue.
Yeah, working out has been an absolute blessing. It has helped so much. And on that specifically, it's I'm actually curious, because we talked about this a little bit, when you got super into wanting to work out and your fitness journey and everything like that, and helping me, which then sadly COVID happened, and that has been an interesting.
We've had some good sessions though since.
Yeah, that's true.
I
wish it was more.
Wish it was more consistent. Yeah.
But what made you want to teach? What was I want to do this? What made you want to go down that personal trainer route?
I think it correlates with what Sam said. I mean, I guess just the type of person I am, without even realizing it, you just lead. And it's kind of like you said, leaders don't always want to lead, but sometimes I sat there and I was like, I see how these personal trainers could be at times. They want your money, they want to, take everything from you and kind of just show you a cut way of doing something. And honestly, I just was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to show people that I love the correct way of working out, the correct, sets, the correct ways of, bar path and, range of motion, stuff like that. And, different kinds of things that you could really do, whether it's, caloric deficits and stuff. And I just think it's important to actually be educated on what you're doing and not just paying for a program. I think that you should really know. And that was one of my biggest motivations, was I wanted to make it easily accessible for people I love. So, yeah.
I will be, as one of those people, I am very happy you did so.
Yeah.
It's literally, working out is one of the very few things that help me with my pain.
Yeah.
That I deal with, so
it's awesome. That's awesome.
I very much appreciate you and everything you do.
I appreciate that. I really do.
There's just some questions here from our other friend in the podcast, Rob Starsky.
Yeah.
So one of them you answered already.
Mm-hmm.
The other question, number 2, is what was your thought process behind getting your certificate, and what did it entail?
Well, it was a long process. There's a company called ISSA that's fabulous. I recommend, if anybody ever gets interested or motivated in the fitness world, to use them. There's some courses you could take, but there's also written tests, and there's information online that you could do. You gotta kind of have your own clients for a little bit, or people that you're training, write down your own information, and really, anybody could become a personal trainer. It's how dedicated you are. It's like going to college. Really, anybody could go to college, but to get a master's degree, it's not the same. You got to really want that, or a bachelor's even. You got to really, really want that. Or even a trade at the end of the day. Trades are not easy. They're actually sometimes harder, I think, than school. So you got to really want what you're doing. And you got to, take a couple tests. You got to have over a year experience on the job to get your master's, master's certification. And that's why, I did it. Because like I said in the original question, it took a lot, but I really wanted to show people an easier way of doing things without paying out of their ass. So.
Oh, that's really wonderful, Rob. And the second question, how do you feel about helping others achieve their fitness goals?
It's really a beautiful thing. I mean, just seeing like some of the clients I have either lose 30 pounds or lose 3 pounds, it doesn't matter. An achievement's an achievement, and sometimes we have to realize small steps make big, So if you take a step in a puddle, right, it's small because like your foot is small. But when the rifts start going, right, it's massive. So it's like it has to start somewhere. And maybe my analogy was a little, stressed there.
Basically, what he was trying to say was, you start with baby steps. You don't start
in a small. It gradually spans out. The ripple effect spans out, and I think watching people achieve their goals is almost like a high to me. It really is, because it makes me happy seeing that I'm able to actually show people like what they're capable of doing. Because a lot of people I know, especially like Drew or my brother hurt his shoulder, Keith, not too long ago. It's like being able to push those boundaries, rehab what you did, get past like boundaries with you with CF. It's like, holy crap, like I never thought I was part of this. Even you, Anthony, like when I had you doing some HIIT workouts, you were like, what the hell is this guy
God, that
doing?
was torture.
Oh, they are tough.
Yeah, but after you even came to me and you said, no, I think I could do this. Because after a while, once your body gets acclimated to something, it's not as hard anymore, right? So you got to just keep doing something.
Well, with the swimming for me, I'm a swimmer, but I've been doing like laps in the pool, little bit I condition, so. Like,
that's something actually that you had me beat on, because I love swimming, but I cannot swim. I mean, like I could swim, but I'm not a swimmer.
Oh, you're not a fish?
Yeah. Just keep swimming.
I'm definitely a fish.
Yeah.
I do want to circle back, though, because we've talked a lot about your mental health, and we've talked about physical health, which is a new one on this podcast, in my opinion. So, I mean, how the mental state that you're in, how do you feel about the podcast direction? Where do you see this going for you in 10 years?
I hope it gets a bunch of more seasons. I mean, like I said, I mean, we all want to have the thousands of subscribers following us, but at the end of the day, I just want people that it's really going to affect to hit. I want it to hit home. And I do think that one day we will get to those numbers. I do. And I'm not, really hoping for them. But, I just want it to really, I want it to matter. I want it to actually do something for the people around it. And like a lot of you have said, it really has impacted not only you, but people in a ripple effect. So
yeah, like my buddy on the mic said, like Juliana over here, that it's even if it's one person, you've impacted that one person's life.
Yeah.
When we were talking about the name earlier, like the fact that we changed it, the remember us part, we are the us.
Yeah.
So the fact that we kind of went full circle with your interview today, being able to you are a part of that.
Yeah.
So everyone in this room has a struggle. And that's why I kind of wanted to ask where your ideas are for the future, because even if the numbers don't align, like you're going to continue this
of
forever.
course.
So.
It's not just my ideas. I mean, it's going to be a team effort. I made this podcast with my brother and one of my best friends, and I seek my brother for mostly every decision I make in life. And honestly, I'm probably going to ask him what we're going to do right after this. So, but Keith is the main writer of this podcast. I don't write it. I just, I do a lot of the facilitating, but without him, I'd be a chicken without a head a lot in life. And
Thank
even my
you.
other brother, Scotty, Drew.
Shout out Scotty boy,
Yeah.
electrician.
Absolutely. OSHA 30, baby.
Scott's a beast.
Having Starsky be so knowledgeable with like different programs and just knowing what he's doing, even Drew, it's so pinnacle to what we're gonna do next. I'd like for there to be, I'm aiming for like probably right now like 3 seasons, maybe 5. That's the end goal. I mean, if it continues to go, then I say let's keep going. Like I'll never stop it, but I'm going to have a goal, and the goal right now is 3 to 5 seasons. And I want not just the people on the podcast to be heard, but our own team to be heard. So I'm going to say right now that the last episode of every season, I'd like a member of this podcast to jump on the mic and, tell us about yourself. Because I think it's important. I think we all deserve a voice just as much as anybody who's on here. So.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. I think it's going to be called the Founding
The
episode,
Founders
right?
Edition.
Yeah, Founders
so
Edition.
all of us, like we may look at me and say, "Oh, I founded this," but like in a way, you all did, because it didn't get and grow into what it is right now without everybody in this room. So, I mean, it started off with really poor camera angles too.
That's true.
Muffled audio.
It's a really
Like
awkward
the
camera
movie, yeah,
angles.
exactly.
Really awkward interview.
Yeah,
Questions that were just like reading from a script that was like robotic.
yeah. And it's still-
How are you today?
You look
Yeah,
good
right there.
today. But
How do you feel?
yeah, and it just, it got better, and I got more comfortable behind the mic, and honestly, I think a lot of us did. I gotta say, like, Juliana joining the team was one of the biggest influences. Sam, not just being the artist of the team, but really like jumping on and being a voice on it is literally insane. It's awesome because it gives both females a perspective for females out there, and that's really awesome. It's important. So, and like I said, I mean, I can't take the credit for this. This may be the founders episode, but you guys are the founders, so
We're a team, like it or not.
yeah,
But great job, everybody.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very proud of everyone here.
So, I mean, I guess just to touch on just like a few more things, as everybody.
I wanted to segue
Oh, really?
There we go with the terminology.
back into more of you, Rob.
Yeah.
So the viewers out there, Rob and I know each other for 8 years. We
Yes.
met when I started working at the movie theater back in 2014.
Yep.
And I would say that our friend bond, like we bonded over video games. Like
Right
it was
away.
Resident Evil.
It was. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. Am I right?
Actually, you can. Resident Evil 6.
And I know that
True.
you're a huge video game buff.
Yes.
So I just wanted to ask you, like, how has video games impacted your life?
That's a cool question because honestly, they have greatly. I mean, my favorite video game character ever is Solid Snake, and honestly, playing the video games that I did at such a young age, watching them, they have lasting effects. Some of the cutscenes, which literally most of Kojima's games are movies, but they kind of like, as I became an adult, I molded myself the way that certain, characters that I idolized acted. And I tried to keep, the same composure that they do in certain things, even in animes, because I'm a big anime buff as well. I gotta say, like, Resident Evil, Metal Gear, Silent Hill,
Rest in peace.
yeah, Splinter Cell, God of War, games like that, they really, like, revolutionized, like, who I am. Boy. You know what I mean? Like, but,
Boy.
Get in the boat.
Can't forget Fortnite.
yeah. Fortnite! But
on me.
it's so important.
Yo, who's doing windmill dance right now?
It's so important that we're able to like joke like this about these games because honestly, as a team, we're not just a team, but we also hang out. Like we have fun and we play these games together, and it's amazing. Like I remember me.
All of my friends are in this room.
Wait, I have friends?
Yes, that's the biggest thing right there. But I gotta say, you're right. Video games, they really made it. I'm a PlayStation guy at heart. Love Xbox. I love PC. Yeah, I never, I can't. PC lets you access so many more things, but I've always been a PlayStation guy at heart, so gotta go with it.
Yeah, me too.
Me
Um,
also.
And I know, I remember you telling me that you sort of used to watch your dad play
Yeah.
video games
Yeah. So
growing up.
My dad, like most things he's done in his life, he's revolutionized who I am, and I follow. I used to, and I still do. I try to mold myself after the way that he is, and in 1996, I remember him telling me that he told my mom, "Man, it's boring in this house. We got to do something." And he went to Toys R Us, if anybody remembers what the hell that was.
That's
And-
amazing.
Yeah, and they go to Toys R Us. God only knows where they were. They see the PlayStation 1 dropped, and back then those graphics were like friggin' like Roblox characters, and I can just picture my dad to this day going, "Damn, this crazy! Damn, look at that! Look at that view! It's literally the back of somebody's blockhead."
Like, for anybody here, if you want to, if you're not old enough to experience it, go look up Siphon Filter
Oh,
PS1
God.
on, YouTube.
Yeah.
And watch, back then, that was,
That
the
was the
bee's
shit.
knees. That
It
was
was
the
the
shit.
It was.
Meanwhile, I look like Minecraft.
Like what I was saying about my dad. Funny enough, Siphon Filter was one of the first games he bought, but he saw the picture from Resident Evil 1 in 1996, and it said Resident Evil, and he was asking the guy like what it was about, and found out it was survival horror. and he was like, "Holy shit, I gotta grab this." And I remember, I mean, I wasn't old enough for that one, but I remember watching him play 2, because by the time he was playing 2 and 3, that was like 1999 and stuff like that, and I was like blown away. And he was friggin' awesome at video games. You know, don't let him, you know, sugarcoat it. He was great. You know, at times just as good as me, but he ended up having to give it up. You know, he stopped really with GTA 4 and Resident Evil 4 in the early 2000s. You know, he ended up having a few, 2 more kids. You know, and then he had to be the man of the house, which he always was. And unfortunately, I wish that he would play more video games now. You know, that he has more days, free. But maybe we'll get him back on there one day. But he does watch a lot of like YouTube walkthroughs of games still to this day. So he never lost the gamer in his heart. It's just it's hard sometimes to keep up with it. So.
That's awesome, man. But you're really good too. I mean, like,
Yeah.
Can you just give us a brief timeline of the Resident Evil 2 trophies? Because it's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
We
And
gotta
how
be
many
here forever.
times you've beaten Resident Evil
Rob's
1?
not sharing because Rob was. I don't know if this is right though. You were a holder of some type of speed championship,
Yeah, so-
sir?
She's right. In Resident Evil 1, the remake, I was 14th in North America for speed runs on the hardest difficulty. I didn't do that alone though. Drew, Drew was actually like the navigator for me. So without like the teamwork, because a lot of speedrunners have a team that do it with them, I would not have gotten to 14th.
So really,
What was
quick,
your time?
You
Quick.
never lost your virginity?
No, I still haven't. Still haven't.
Big true, guys. Big true.
That's
It
news
was an hour.
to me.
It was an hour. It was an hour and 37 minutes.
Oh God, that's disgusting. Who'd you play as, Chris?
How
or
about
just-
this?
Who came in first? Who was number 1 on that list?
I don't know, but it was 13 people.
Oh,
ahead,
my
so-
I want you guys. How about this? Here's the real question: how many times have you think you've beaten Resident Evil 1 remake specifically? But we'll.
How many years has the Voyager been around?
Oh Jesus, a lot.
To quote what Juliana said,
Probably
did
the
you
amount of.
lose
I'm
your
sorry.
virginity?
Yeah. I still haven't. No, I haven't even touched grass in a couple of years.
Lots of grass.
Rob probably knows more about the layout and the architecture of the Spencer Mansion from Resident Evil Remake than his own home.
Chat on Facebook is literally called Spencer Mansion. Is it not?
It is.
Is it really?
I think
Yes.
that honestly, like if somebody was asking me like what my house was looking like, I would tell them, well, the dining room, you go upstairs to the B1 hall and you unlock it with the sword key.
Yeah, and then you have people like, "What the hell is
But-
a sword key?"
They're joking around because like there's a stat on my on my PlayStation that says it only took me 16 hours to beat to get the platinum of Resident Evil 1 when I bought the game 18 hours prior.
Good
So,
God.
there was a 2-hour null and how quick I platinumed the game. And Anthony's joking around about Resident Evil 2 because there wasn't even a full day in between me beating the game on the hardest difficulty between the two characters. So I need a life.
Yeah, and then let's not even talk about Resident Evil 3 remake, which you beat in
1 week.
less than a
Fully.
week, fully 100% the game.
Resident Evil Village was 1 month fully. So Resident Evil 4 is coming next. So yeah, I'm a loser. Everybody, glad you're hearing it.
He
Capcom has
needs
to hire you,
this.
dude.
This is a cry for help.
This is not a cry for help. This is a cry for Capcom. Hire me.
Well, I was going to say video games is a great form of escapism, you
It
know.
is.
For a lot of people, it is a good coping skill.
That's
You're
why I
right.
play Fortnite every day.
Not on Fortnite.
Yeah.
Certain games, no, like Fall Guys. No, not for me.
Fortnite is not a coping mechanism. That'll make
For
you want
me,
to punch
it
the
is.
screen.
Fall
Don't
Guys.
coping mechanism shame me.
Honestly, Fall Guys is definitely not mine because controllers end up in windowsills.
Yeah, I definitely know that all too well. Video games are definitely a coping mechanism.
No,
That is
they are.
definitely true.
They're definitely in a form of escapism, and there was something actually me and my brother were watching the other day, and it was a space between things that we remember and things now, and it's called luminality, and it's kind of like how we, like if you talk about Sports Plus, you remember Sports Plus vividly, right? But it's no longer here anymore, and it's like
Right.
Rest in peace,
they
Toys
call
R Us.
that luminality because it's like you remember it, and if you had a dream, you could walk through the halls as if it's still there, but it's not. And they have a word for it to where, like, what happened to that time in between? What happened to these places? These places we made true memories in, right? They're all gone now. The movie theater in Patchogue, right? The
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster.
Yeah, we
Oh,
feel all.
especially
Yeah, baby.
That's where I
Blockbuster.
rented my first Silent Hill game, and You know, I remember, you know,
There's a whole documentary on the Blockbuster.
Yeah, I can vividly
Really?
remember
It's on
walking
Netflix?
in.
It's on Netflix. Okay, I got
Vividly remember walking in and getting N64 games
Yeah.
in Blockbuster in Bayshore.
Yeah. And you know, shout out to the YouTuber Nexpo, because that's who I'm referring to. You know, because this will be on YouTube as well. You definitely check out his channel. The dude's amazing.
Great content.
Great content. And luminality is such an important thing in my life, because I always talk to my brother about this, you know, when he comes over, and we're just like, you know, you remember that and you remember this, and like I remember this stuff so vividly, like I feel like it's still there. Like I could give you a rundown of what Sports Plus was like before it was taken down. And it's weird, because it's like I feel like it's still there, but the lights are closed. And that's what luminality is. It feels like the space in between.
Yep.
Almost like the upside down in Stranger Things.
The space between.
There we go.
Dave
There we
Matthews.
go. Bruce Springsteen on the mic, folks.
It's an interesting topic that you brought up, though, because a lot of the time, our childhood, like, I don't remember anything under the age of 14. So when you kind of look back at your childhood a bit and you look back at the fun things, you have a tendency to remember those more than you remember sometimes your own trauma. Like, you literally block that stuff out. But I can tell you what Sports Plus looked like on the inside. Like, it's amazing.
I can't.
But so it's a big part of who you are, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had my 7th birthday there, so I didn't forget.
I also had a
anything.
birthday there.
Really?
Yeah.
It was, you know, and you're right. I mean, it does have a big, part on who I am, because, like, you know, a lot of the places that I went to, you know, and where I went with my parents, and just like how much time they put into their children, and you know, brought us to different spots. Fun for All. I don't know if anybody remembers
I
Fun for
remember
All
that.
in
Oh, man.
Port Jeff. I mean,
I had a birthday there. I think
Like,
my
yeah.
7th birthday. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Do you guys remember
It was in
when
Port
like
Jeff.
McDonald's had like a ball pit in
Yeah.
every single one of them?
kids were peeing in it.
Not that many though.
And like
And
the
you
stuff
had-
you climbed, like on the the slides.
Yeah.
And, oh yeah.
Remember, like going to like the fun zone in
Yeah, but
Farmingdale.
Who who
When I
uses
grew up.
those anymore?
Yeah,
right.
nobody. I mean, they have a fun
That's true.
zone now.
I would.
They have a, I think it's called Explore. That took the place of Fun for All in Port Jeff. But I mean, it's not the same. You know, like I remember there being like a tower that you could climb in Fun for All, and you go through like there's like trampolines.
Yeah.
Remember the
Then there was the
trampoline
one
thing?
where it was like
Yeah.
you were on a freaking conveyor belt
Yeah.
shooting
Yeah.
down.
Oh, you know what I mean? And your ass was like getting like the traction. But I mean, it's true. It's true because you know you remember those sometimes, and thinking about it now, those are the things that make me happy. You know, like I'm so happy with the here and now and the things I'm doing. But sometimes I look back and I'm just like, I wish the things that are in my memory and in my heart are still here. You know, like we could say that for even a lot of people, but sometimes even the places we were at. You know, they leave memories of who we were before certain traumas, and I think that's so important too. So, I mean, yeah.
Because that is to tie into what Anthony was saying, is all coping mechanisms. Even as adults, most of us are, I think all of us are above the age of 20 in this room.
Well, mentally, Drew.
I'm a 2-year-old.
So it actually ties in
Sure.
really nice with the podcast, because a lot of the time we reflect into the past,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of like Juliana's story and Ashley's story, you have to go in the past to kind of live your truth in your present. So that's why I'm kind of tying it into the podcast a little bit,
Yeah.
because these coping mechanisms that Anthony even talks about on the podcast are kind of what everybody has in common on
Right.
here. Even you, which is pretty sweet.
It is.
Even if it is fun for all, we'll take it.
Fun for All was dope. What were those? By the way, what were those questions that you wanted to hit me with? Do you remember?
Actually, I have a question.
Drew has a
specifically.
question.
I do.
Go ahead.
So, with all this talk about, you know, remembering and, you know, all your memories and stuff like that, like what setbacks really changed you? What are some things that really made you go, you know, I need to change, or this, you know, I need to do things better?
Well, it's been a long time, so I don't really give a shit about talking about it. But, you know, a couple of years back, I got into a relationship, right? That was just, you know, on the outside was everything that you ever wanted, and was very supportive at first, and was, you know, incredible, right? And I was learning new things. I was learning how to, you know, challenge myself in ways, do new sports. go to the beach and surf and learn how to do different things that I'd never done before. And it was like invigorating. I was like, damn, I've never done this stuff before, and like learning how to like longboard and stuff. And it was stuff that was so out of my comfort zone and who I was that that person brought me to a place of euphoria that I had never felt. And it's not to say that I've never felt it again, because I definitely have felt it again. But
Never felt it up to that point.
Yeah, that up to that point, I could say that I never felt it. I was with that person for a while. The day before Christmas Eve, they broke up with me in my home. They didn't really say goodbye to, my grandparents are two of the most important people in my life, and they brought this person in like they was their own child and didn't even have the decency to say goodbye. So, I mean, it is what it is, you just have to kind of live with it and move on. That, if a person's really crying about breaking up with you, what are they crying about? Hurting you or just being guilty? And I think a part of it is, a lot of us at times, we can all have narcissistic tendencies, but I think a lot of us, truthfully, we don't want to, we want to be the victim. We don't want to be the one that causes harm to anybody. And I think that in that situation, when I was being broken up with, this person was trying to find every which way to make me, not the victim, and to be the one that caused what was happening. I became not Rob. Honestly, I had lost 35 pounds. I was 145 pounds. My face was emaciated. I was just not myself. There were days I didn't want to get out of bed at all. There were days that I was in so much pain in my heart that I just really did not give a shit what was going on. I didn't give a shit about my job. I didn't give a shit about people being upset with me. There were family members that were like, we're doing everything we can. Why, what can I do? And I said, I don't know. There's nothing. This is how it'll always be. And I felt that way, and you go through that for a really long time, and you try to battle your way out, but sometimes when demons are surrounding you, it's brutal. It's got to be one of the worst feelings in the world, because you hear all these voices, from your anxious side telling you that you weren't good enough, you're a loser, you're an idiot, you messed this up, you did nothing to try to prevent it. If you would have just given the person space, none of this would have ever happened.
Oh, God. All those I feel so badly.
So I
know that feeling all too well.
Yeah, and
it's rough.
I think being able to overcome that, though, is the real
and that's where I was
part.
Exactly, and that's really where it was going, because honestly, after that, in 2019, I started really hanging out with my friends again. I pushed myself. My brothers, gave me a kick in the ass and said, dude, time to get going. You can't wither away. We need you. So I kind of realized, like, I got people to take care of. I got to get with it. 2019, I spent so much time with my friends. They really brought me back to where I was, and I'm always, always grateful for them, and they know who they are, all of you, and a bunch of others. I mean, if I didn't have those late night hangouts and drives and parties and things that I did to really bring me back, I really I don't think I'd be here, because I was really withering away fast, and right before the pandemic, I met somebody, and she's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I got to say the euphoric feeling came back. So it's a cool feeling, man. I never thought that it would come back. Sometimes when you feel something right in life, especially in a love situation, you're afraid because you don't think you'll ever feel that same feeling again. But I could truthfully say, when there's somebody that just, there's that light bulb that's on in a room with a bunch of dead ones, it's like you'll never forget it, and I'm thankful to that person.
Yeah, shit. She sounds like a really cool person.
If I could just say,
cute.
That she is.
one of the greatest days of my life was after hearing Rob be so depressed and so, day in and day out.
what the hell?
No, listen, I'm getting somewhere.
No, one of the best days of my life is when I was listening to somebody talk about literally the worst of the worst down there.
Not the best time in there, but go ahead.
Okay, after Rob was depressed for like a super, super long time,
It was a long time.
it was, it was so bad. It was bad.
It was very bad.
And it was really hard to see. Because then you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? You get worried. I have anxiety too, so I was always worried about you and stuff. But after all that, the best day of my life was hearing you call me on the phone, and you're like, I met someone, we've been talking for a while, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to jinx it,
Yeah, I
but
remember that.
I'm so excited,
I was
and
nervous.
like you were just so, like, I just heard that like spirit in your voice and that spirit come back to you. And not to say that like you need to be in a relationship to be happy, but
Of
like
course.
Sam just really like lit something up in you that I didn't see for a long time, and I was worried that you would never get it back. But
Yeah.
and now you're here, and be like seeing you with Sam, it's like tenfold. Like you are like the best I've seen you, and
Yeah.
you're working through stuff, and like you really have become like the best version of yourself. And I think it's a huge, like hugely
Yeah.
huge. I don't know what
It's
I'm
true.
saying, but
It's true.
Sam played a huge part in it. Is
I mean,
basically what I'm saying.
Very huge.
A man can't stand at the helm of a house without his woman, and I truly believe that because or man. I mean, I don't, you know, I don't.
know. I'm
I-
messing with you.
I don't, you know, objectify or
God,
whatever.
way to make everything seem weird.
Yeah. No, but you know, it's true. She's right. There was like a lifeless feeling in me. It was very voided. It was gutted. I mean, spending time with me, you could see that I was still very funny, but it was that kind of like
You were like an empty shell.
I was an empty shell. It was like I just was trying to make others happy while not really giving a shit about my own spirit, my own mental health. I really did not care. And, you know, it took a lot. It took a person coming into my life to make it happen. It took a lot of me working on myself to make it happen. It took a lot of time meditating. And honestly, two of the most important influencers throughout history that I follow a lot of their practices was like Marcus Aurelius and Masashi Miyamoto. And honestly, like I do a lot of like different meditations from like even Miyamoto's teachings, and like, you know, some of the music that they play in like ancient Japanese, you know, feudal Japan that they used to play, you could listen on YouTube, and there's kind of like different quotes that Miyamoto said, and you know, practicing those is just so influential on a person. And I gotta say, like, I'm a big ASMR guy too. I mean, it helps. You know, it definitely like, you know, it just things like that. You need to do those things because if you don't, you know, you like I said, you have to work on yourself. And one thing I said in the beginning of this episode was I never believe that you actually truly heal from something. I think just enough time passes that you move on from it, and I always will believe that.
Yeah.
So
And as like the person, hi, I'm the partner he was referencing. I cannot thank Juliana and everyone for hyping me up, for giving me that much love, because I do not deserve it. But moving
Oh,
on
God.
to Rob, I cannot speak for everyone in this room on how proud we are of you. Not only for this,
Yes,
but
very proud. Very
yeah, all of us have a common story with you that has influenced all of our lives. I would not probably be here if it wasn't for Rob. So it's, I'm gonna cry. But I think we speak for like all of us. We say how much we love you.
Oh, also, wait, no, hold on.
That means
Before
a
we
lot.
go,
that means a lot.
I love
Before
you,
we-
Robbie.
before we go and we
Thank
continue
you,
with that,
Sammy. Thank you.
before we go and continue, can we say how much that we don't want you to say that in terms of putting yourself down, Sam? Like, no, there's absolutely no reason to put yourself down.
Credit is given where credit is due.
Yeah.
Sam,
It
you
is.
get the credit,
deserve.
okay?
Absolutely.
This is about Rob.
I don't like that. What's going on over here, Keith? You gonna throw a couple questions my way? What's going on there, champ?
Everything is being asked.
Come on, throw
I
out-
guess
give me a little
this is a good
curveball
time
here.
for it.
Come on, slugger.
Would you say that the person you are now is somebody that depressed self back then, your younger self, would look up to and be like, I want to be like that guy?
That's a good question. I mean, I would hope that the person I am now would reach out to that person and make sure that they get off their feet. That old me might not be as receptive, but I think that if it knew who it was, I think it would show that you can get through this, and I think that they would be good friends, and I think that one day they would just join together. You know?
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Would one of the masks? Why don't you come on the show as a guest?
Wait, what'd you say?
I said, would one of the masks? Why don't you come on the show and be a guest? Remember us podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I didn't. It was. Thank you, Rob, for sharing that bit about the depression, because I had no idea that's
Yeah.
what you were going through. So
Yeah, it was.
thank you for that.
I
I was
appreciate it.
at the time. I think I was in school
You were.
for social work, so I was in my own little bubble.
Yeah, you had.
So
your
I had
you
no
were
idea
focusing on your
about
stuff.
that. So,
Yeah.
but
And that's not something that you have to ever feel a certain way about.
Yeah, of course.
I wasn't sharing it with a lot of people, but my body was showing it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. So,
All right, so just to tie up the podcast, if anyone is done with their questions, the final question we ask everyone on the show: what would you like to be remembered for, Rob?
damn. I'm not even hosting my own show. And
How does that feel? They're giving it to you, the
Yeah,
question.
now you need to deal with
I'm
this.
looking all over the damn place.
And this is the Omega question of all questions.
The final boss.
I think a lot about this question, and I think a lot about when I was a little boy. And I kind of always had that feeling where, like, I kind of wondered if, like, you know, almost like a alternate reality, if, like, you know, I ran into myself when I was a little boy and who I am now, like, would I notice myself and smile? And it's like, you know, it's a question because we truly are supposed to always know who we are, I think, and I always live by that. And I think that if I was a little boy and I had seen who I am now, I would have really liked the person that I am, and I think I would have been proud of where I got. So I think if there's anything I want to be remembered for, I want to be remembered as somebody who wasn't particularly the best leader, but did the best that he could, and you know, cared about the people that were around him, and you know, just did everything he could, whether he got angry fast or he got sad fast. You know, he had a lot of love in his heart for those around him, and honestly, I'm thankful I'm still around and doing this. So.
And we are all thankful that you are still around and
Yes.
still doing this.
I can confirm for being your friend for I don't even know how long at this point. How many years?
18.
18? Jesus. I feel old.
My back has sciatica.
Yeah. You carry me way too much. Your back is completely screwed, but we are all, including myself,
You're
more
like
than
my
ever.
transport.
Yes. Definitely. Can confirm.
No, but guys, really, thank you so much for doing this, hosting this, being a part of this. And I just want to give a shout out real quick to everybody that's tuned in to this entire season. We're going to be putting one video out just of kind of just like an update on news. It's probably just going to be me and some of the main podcast members touching on what season 2 is going to have. We're going to try to bring more of the video aspect to the podcast world. We're going to be getting a new table where you get to see some new friendly faces. We're also going to be bringing more tech, and we're going to be bringing, you know, new stories to the world. And honestly, with my co-host Juliana, my best friend Drew, my best friend Keith, my love Sam, best friend Anthony, 1
What's
and
up?
2,
I'm just your co-host.
and my best friend. You know that. I know. I don't know why I like
Also,
to
you
put that.
also you said your best friend to Keith.
He is.
Yeah, he's
And
also your
brother.
brother.
I
Yeah,
forget-
yeah, he's your actual brother. Who would have thought, you know?
Wait a second.
Okay,
Pause real
Rob's
quick.
butchering.
Wait a second. Hold on. Wait a
Oh, no,
second.
no.
Are you? No. No, but honestly, guys, this is basically the Remember Us podcast signing off, and we're extremely excited for season 2 coming January of 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Rob, for being on the show today.
Thank you,
Obviously, you would be on the show, but
guys. Yeah.
thanks for
Next
letting
time,
us ask you
places.
questions.
next time I'm going to interview myself in a room for 2 hours.
Yes, please do. All right, I love you all.
Thank you, Rob. We appreciate you.
Thanks, brother.
Love you, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Oh, boy.
No, I'm not gonna cry again. I love you. Make good choices. Don't do anything illegal.
Love you, too. Thank you, guys.
Well, that's it for the season 1 finale. We hope you enjoy this episode as well as the whole season. Stay tuned as season 2 will be here before we know it. In the off time, the team will be working on how to make the podcast better than ever. And as Rob once stated, there'll be a return to video for the YouTube aspect in the form of updates and eventually having full interviews on video. And please, if you guys haven't yet, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, show your support in any way, even by sharing the link to friends and family. This is Rob number 2 signing off for the Remember Us podcast, wishing everyone the best, and we hope to see you all soon, again, in season number 2.